Right. So today, our main discussion would be on strings, right? But before that, so I have to briefly discuss multidimensional arrays. So I introduced multidimensional arrays last week. However, we didn't have enough time to go through all the things related to them. So I'll introduce some of them, taking a short time. And then so we can directly, sorry, we can directly move to strings. Right. However, last week, if you remember, so we had a small problem. This is the program that we discussed regarding finding maximum and minimum values of in an array, right? So if you remember, like, so there's a slight problem. So if I put in a scanf, if I put C for character, right? If I input any value as a character, as star data type, right? So there was a problem. There was a problem, right? If you remember, right? So enter an integer. So this is the so in this program. So the size has been let's set size to 5. So the size of the array would be 5. Size of the array would be 5. So the loop would be repeated for 5 times. For 5 times. When I is 0 up to I is 4. So then there would be 4 printf, and then each time the scanf will take the value and assign to the array indices. Right, that's the program. So instead of using D here, so I'm using C for character. So I'm taking it as character. So as I told you, right, between int and char, right, these are interchangeable, right? So if you have a value, right, for example, 1, 2, 5, integer value. Internally, it would be used as a char, right? So then in that case, the character or ASCII character of value 120 would be considered. The other way around is also the same, right? So if you use a character, so for example, C. If you want to use it as an integer, you can do that. In that case, the ASCII value of this character would be considered, right? So that's the idea. So int and char are interchangeable. Right. So let's see how this program executes. I only changed here, right? Just to show the problem that we faced. Right? It would ask 5 numbers, right? 5 times it would ask numbers. Right. Okay. So suppose like I enter any value. Then here you can see there are 2 lines. So that means this part would executed twice. Right? Okay, so I enter another value here. Suppose 6. See, 2 lines at the time, like would be executed. So the values would be kind of strange. Strange value would be added. Right. So that was the problem I observed last week. So the reason here is the scanf is taking characters, right? So in that case, right, when I enter any character, you can enter any character like A, B, or any number, alphanumeric character, whatever, X, for example. See, then after X, actually, after X, I put enter. I press enter key. That key press is also taken as a character. Right? So here, so these characters would be stored in a buffer, right? First I enter X, and then I press enter. So that means it would take that as a character and put it into a buffer. Then this one would be taken. So no problem. And then in the next iteration, so we have a character. Before I enter the next character, this character would be taken, and then next iteration would be fulfilled. So in the second iteration, it will take the enter key press character, next line, and so new line character here. කියන්නේ දෙවෙනි for loop එක කරකෙද්දී අර buffer එකේ තියෙනවා මේ new line character එක ඇවිල්ලා ඒ character එක මෙයා ගන්න. Because this is it's taking the character, right, as a character. If it is an integer, it will take only integer values, right? So then new line character would be not considered. Right? So here, that's a problem. That's a problem, right? When we are using scanf with characters C, then you will face this problem. So one way to avoid this would be put a space in front like this. Right? So let's see how it works. Sometimes it does not work. Then there are some other options as well. Now let's see X. Now it is working. Let's see. Yeah, it is working. So don't worry about these values. The values are something else. But now this the problem that we faced last week, that problem is not there. You put extra space there, right? So that's a one way of solving that problem. And the other way is, so you can use something like this. So see, instead of this, so we have something like this. There is a character pointer. So don't worry about this part. Right? Let's see whether it works. It is also working. See? So that's the second way, right? There are three ways of doing that. First way is we have a space. Right. Second way is using this. The third way is Dinesh has a question. I don't understand your question. Third way is we can use a special method or special function, getChar. So using getChar. getChar. So these are few ways to handle that situation. There are some other ways as well, but mainly, I mean, most simple way would be just put space here, right? So the thing is, if you are using scanf, so the idea here is don't worry about any other things. So let's So I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to create a new project. So if you have any confusions, to reduce that confusions, right? Scanf with char. Okay. So the scanf with char, right? Doesn't have to be any suppose if we have char character type variable, we are taking this enter any character. Right. So if it is just one scan, if it is just one scanf, it will take the first character, no problem, right? It will take that, no problem. So if you want to print suppose we print the character that you entered. Right. Let's input A. Right. That would be printed. Right, very simple program. So, however, if you want to use multiple scanfs, if you are using multiple scanf, so that would be the problem. Yeah, so see, did you notice that? I entered one and then I press enter. So just give me, right. I enter one character, right? I press enter, that character would be printed and then enter any character and then enter any character, right? So both would be there, right? So if I enter another character, that would be printed. The middle iteration was skipped. It was skipped. මේක මම තුන් පාරක් කරකින්නනේ තමයි මේ for loop එක තුන් පාරක් iterate වෙන්න මම දෙන්නේ. හැබැයි එකපාරක් මේක print කරනවා scanf එකකින් value එක ගන්නවා ඒක print කරනවා ඊට පස්සේ ඊළඟ iteration එකේදී මේක print කරනවා ඊට පස්සේ ආපහු ඒකම print කරනවා ඇයි එහෙම වෙන්නේ අන්න ඒකයි මට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ ඒකට හේතුව තමයි so the reason for that is this is taken as a characters විදියට නිකන් character එකක් විදියට අපි මේ scanf එකෙන් ගද්දී scanf එකෙන් character එකක් input කරද්දී මේ scanf එක කීප වතාවක් call වෙද්දී මේ ඇතුළට ගන්න characters තියාගෙන ඉන්නේ buffer එක right the first character is kept and then actually so when I press enter means enter key means it is considered as a separate character මම enter key එක press කරාට පස්සේ ඒ command එක යනවනේ මේ buffer එකට. එතකොට මේ character එකක් විදිහට ගත්තොත් මේකට වෙනම character එකක් තියෙනවා. x කියන value character එක මම මේවා කරලා enter key කරාට පස්සේ මේක වෙනම character එකක් විදිහට ගන්නවා. එතකොට මේ පළවෙනි එක ගත්තා ඊට පස්සේ අර දෙවෙනි iteration එකේදී එයා මම enter කරේ දැන් enter කරන්න ඕනේ මම enter කරේ වෙන value එකක් කියලා දාන්න. ඒක නෙවෙයි ගන්න මෙන්න මේක ගන්න. ඒකයි ඊළඟ line එකට ඒක යන්නේ. Right. So I enter x here and press enter it would be taken as the next one. That's why it is skipped. To avoid that, what we do is we can add a space here. So that means before entering the character, it would add a space. Space would be added. So then that enter character would be enter or the next new line character would be removed, not considered. Right. So now right. See now it is good. Okay, so that's what I explained there. I mean, nothing serious. When you are using characters with scanf, this problem would be there. So be aware that. Right? So this would solve that problem. Scanf එකත් එක්ක character පාවිච්චි කරද්දී මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ එන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙනම් මේ චුට්ටක් දැනගලා තියාගන්න මම මේ හරි. නැතු මේ එක්සෑම් එකට මම මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ අහනවා එහෙම නෙවෙයි. Right. Okay. So if you go to multidimensional arrays, so I already explained what is a multidimensional array. In C programming, you can create an array of arrays known as multidimensional array. The following example creates two-dimensional array. So multi-dimensional means it could be more than two-dimensional, definitely. Two or more. Right? Suppose if we take array like this, it can be considered as an array of arrays. Right? Suppose so we have an array. We have an array. Array of integers with two items. So this is one array. We visualize it like that. 3, 2, 3, 10. So these values are there. If we have another array, these are two arrays. Right? This is okay, this is another. Actually, we can have arrays of arrays. This is an array. The array items, in this case, array items are integers. Instead of that, array item itself could be an array. Right? So these are called multidimensional array of arrays. So if you visualize them, we visualize them as a table. The first row of the table would be the first array. Second row would be second array, and so one row would be one array. So here there are two things. Number of elements in a one array. In one array. And the other thing is number of arrays. Number of arrays. Here, number of arrays would be 2. Number of elements would be 3. Array elements here, the arrays here. These what would be rows of the table. Rows. These are would be columns. Rows and columns. So when we indicate such array, right? So we give like int. When we initialize such array, so we have to specify the size, right? We have to specify the size in two-dimensional manner. first the number of rows and the number of columns. Rows means number of arrays. So in this case, number of arrays would be 3. Number of arrays would be 3 arrays. And then each array we have how many elements? We have 9 elements. Each array is having 9 columns. This will create 2-dimensional array. So we can have higher dimensional arrays as well. This is the previous one is 2-dimensional. So this one would be 3-dimensional. So it is like, you can imagine it like as, so this is one table. So layers of tables. This is a table. We can have layers of table. How many layers of tables? So table wala layers kiya. So that's how it becomes 3-dimensional. Layers of tables. In this case, 4. This is how we specify. So this is the first dimension. If we add new dimension, it would be added to the left hand side. Right? Then we have, so this is the array size. We have 2 arrays of such, right? So then we have 4 tables of this type. So is it clear? In a multi-dimensional array, what's happening? So any questions? Right? So we can have higher dimensions as well. So initializing multi-dimensional array. So this is one way. Right? In this case, so this is how we can initialize. 2-dimensional, the array name, and then rows and columns. That means actually 3 arrays. Each array is having 4 columns. So without using these braces inside, we can define it as this. We can remove these. So because the size has been set, right? Like 4 for each array, and then we have 3 arrays of such. Then it will divide these values like 4, would be considered as one array, and the next 4 would be considered as the next array, and the final 4 would be considered as the next array. So this is how to initialize multi-dimensional arrays. So then if you want to access multi-dimensional array, so if it is just a one-dimensional array, we use just the index. But in multi-dimensional case, so we have to give two values, row and column, for which array, which position. If we take 2, 3, that means this position, that means index 2 array. So that means this array is third position, index 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So if you take this element, it says like index 1 arrays second index. Index 1 array means index 0 array is this one, index 1 array is this one. Index 1 arrays index 2. In this array, index 0, 1, 2. So that means this one, third one. Likewise, we can access them in a similar manner with multi-dimensional arrays. Right. So here, so we have five arrays of each having 2 elements. Arrays පහක් තියෙනවා. ඒ හැම array වල දෙක ගානේ තියෙනවා. So we have 5 arrays and each having 2. Rows, columns. So when you are accessing multi-dimensional arrays, we may have to use nested loops, right? Nested loops. So for example, here, so we have I, J. So we have 2 loops to access the rows and this one to access the columns. So we access the first row, so we can access the first row. We can access the first row. In the inner loop, and the outer loop would consider handling each row. The next iteration it will access this one. Next iteration it will access this one. So that's why they're using for loop. First one with I, second one with J. So I goes up to 5, j goes up to 2. See, from 0 to 5, 5 to 0 to 2. Right. So this is not like just before 5, 0 to 4, and this one 0 to 1. You can access using I would be the row, j would be the column. Print all the values. So any questions? Any questions regarding multidimensional array? We are not talking these things very deep, but if you have the basic idea and if you can use multidimensional arrays, so that would be enough, but you'll be fine. So any questions? Any questions? If you don't have any questions, we can move to strings. So can anyone tell me, like before going to strings, can anyone tell me what are the uses of multidimensional arrays? Can anyone give me an example where multidimensional arrays would be essential? So anyone? Multidimensional array. When can we use multidimensional arrays, for example? Shamila De Silva. Can you give me any example? Shamila? Taridu. When storing multiple words in an array, multiple strings, very good, very good, right? So we are going to talk about strings later. Suppose we need to store I want to store and store set of words, right? Suppose I'm making a dictionary app. In that case, I need to store words, right? Right. So, for example, cat. Then different words. Right? So I can use arrays to store different words, multi-dimensional array of words. The word could be considered as an array of characters. Right? So that's a one example, right? Very good, huh? Thank you. And another example, suppose after final examination of your first semester, right? Each student's marks or the grades for each subject can be stored. Right? Like, so let's say marks, right? Student, the first student, right? Marks for the first subject. So first student's marks would be here. So first student's marks would be for the first subject, it would be very low marks. For the second subject, it would be relatively good marks. Third subject, it would be the marks. So likewise, for the first student's mark. Then the second student's marks for the first subject. Again, first subject is not very easy, so second student got the low marks. So this one, very good. Right? Likewise, the second student, third student. Third student is good at this subject, so he may have relatively good. So likewise, if you want to create tables, table-like applications, and then matrix-like applications. These type of things should be stored. Table-like information is stored. So then multi-dimensional arrays can be easily used, very easily used. So table-like things are very common in real life. So if you're going to store real data in your program, so yeah, so this can be used multi-dimensional. Right? Right. So let's go to strings then. So if you have any questions, any other questions, anything. Okay. Right, strings. So I'm going to go a bit faster and then let's see. So if you have questions, so we can arrange another session to discuss the basic practical stuff related to this. And then after strings, so I am planning to do another two lectures to discuss pointers, right? Pointers. So since this is the last week of your lectures, most probably, so I will take, or I'll do that lecture on Saturday. Right? So let's see, let's try to do that on Saturday, and then you can, so we can conclude all the lectures with that, right? So because of that, so I'll go through the strings quickly, right? Quickly as possible, right? This is not very difficult. So if you have the idea of an array, so then strings won't be very difficult. Right. C strings, C programming, it is often needed storing words, phrases, and sentences. C provides character strings. So we sometimes we call just C strings, but actually we mean character strings. C character strings. Strings කියලා කිව්වට strings කියලා නිකන් කියන එක ඇත්තටම හරි නැහැ. We have to say character strings. Right? So that's the proper word. So if you want to handle words, phrases, sentences, such a sequence of characters together, then we can use C strings. It is very common. Used like storing words, phrases, sentences, especially like when you are doing text processing, right? Text processing. If you want to process documents, right? Like in data mining, searching, in search. So you are very familiar with search, Google search and many other search. So they use, they access sentence text, right? Text as sentences, as words, and so on, right? So storing words, phrases, sentences, basically like sequence of characters is very important. That's why we talk about that separately, and that's why separately these strings have been provided by C and many other programming languages. Right? Okay. So strings are actually one-dimensional array of characters. I mean, strings are nothing special actually. Actually, they are special. Later on, I'll explain. But they are also arrays. Strings කියලා කියන්නේ arrays වර්ගයක්ම තමයි. Character arrays. Character arrays. Like this, see. So we have characters. It's a character array. Again, this one, how, then space character, R, space character, U, question mark character. These are all characters. So this is a character array. So usually we talked about integer arrays. Similarly, instead of using integer, so we can use, if you use char here, then we can create a character array, multi-dimensional character array. So however, so there's a slight difference between regular character array and string. So I told you strings. So we are talking about strings. We talk about character array. We have characters, array of characters. Right? Then strings. Strings are special case of character. So we have a characters, and then additionally, so we have this is called null character. So we have different special characters like with this one would be new line, this one would be tab, right? So likewise, we have different special character. So this is a null character. So strings are character arrays. Character arrays having null character at the end. Strings කියලා කියන්නේ character arrays. හැබැයි strings වල විශේෂත්වය තමයි මේ null character එක අගට. This would be added automatically by the compiler. So this is a character array, but this is not a string. This is a character array and it is a string. Both are character arrays. This is a string, this is not a string. That's the difference. Null character. So there are two ways to initialize strings. String can be initialized by giving the element of the string with braces. The null character is added at the end. Right. So here, same as right. So this is a string because null character is there. So if you do something like this, 6 or 5, you can put 6 there. So if you do this, so likewise, all these things are there, but we don't have null character. If you remove this, right, we can do that. Right, like this. This one is not a string. Not a string. It's just a character array, char array, regular char. But if we have null character at the end, if you define null character, this is a string. It is a char array as well as a string, special case of char. And the other way is, so this is one way, the other way is you can define it using double quotes. So here, see, each character is defined with single quote. But we can put together all these characters into double quotes. This is another. Like this double quotes. So then in memory, array would be created. So put these characters into that array. And then at the end, null character would be added. Now this is a string. This is a string. Automatically, this one would be added. We don't have to specify it. If you put them inside double quotes, automatically it will be created a string. So this is a string. Right. So when you are printing, right, so printing a string using printf, right? So you can use special format specifier for strings. Char array size is not specified, then the string has been given directly. So this is a string. And then when you print it, printf s, then variable name. Directly you can print it. Right, so new project would be created here. Right. So for example, this is a string. See, this is a string. Printf, hello world. So for printf function, we have given a string. We have given a string. Hello world, new line. So that's a string. Right. Anyway, so let's get some. New string, so I can assign using double quotes. I can assign, okay, so I want to print this. To do that, I can use format specifier for string s, and then I print. I can give the name of the array or name of the string directly. Right. See, I printed. So printf can be used. Right? So if I put some other, right, space full my surname, my full name is there. Yeah, it would be printed. See. Like this. Huh? So here, printf, your name is, we give the format specifier where to be printed. So your name is, instead of this place, the value of this variable would be added here. For example, this one would be printed, and then instead of this format specifier, the value of this one would be, value of this is, value of that string is my full name. See, your name is Chandra. So let's see how scanf can be used with this. Okay. Suppose I have a string character array. So here, let's print enter your name. Okay. Then scanf we give the string name. Then as a format specifier, we can do yes. Is everything all okay with this code? So what do you think? Right. So let's run it. What's the problem? The reason is we can keep when any array is declared, we can keep the size empty only if we assign a value, right? Then only we can keep this empty. So we have to give a size. We have to specify the size. Suppose like let's put 50 characters. So character 50 අපි දාලා තියෙමු දැන් නම. So now that array will be yes, the initial size ampersand name. Okay. So let's so let's try to print it back. The name you entered would be S, and then format specifier put name. Name you entered would be yes. Correct. Correct. Then suppose if I remove this ampersand, let's see whether it works. It's working. The name you entered, yeah, correctly given the name that I get. So if it is regular array, ampersand is mandatory, but here ampersand is optional. You can put ampersand, that's also fine, but even without ampersand, it would work. something special with strings, right? Strings වලට විශේෂයි එක. We will discuss the reason for that when we talk about pointers. Pointers ගැන කතා කරද්දී අපි මේක වැඩිදුර විස්තර. 100% is option, right? Okay. Now let's do something. So I'm going to enter my full name. Chamila space. Okay. I don't know whether you can see it clearly. The name you entered is Chamila, but I entered Chamila space Karuna Tilak. Right? So this is, that's one problem. Another problem with scanning. When you are using scanf with characters, for characters, then I showed you there was one problem earlier, right? Characters එක මේ scanf පාවිච්චි කරොත් එතකොට මේ problem එකක් එනවා. So this is another problem of scanf. Scanf with strings, character strings. This case, actually, it wouldn't recognize white space. That means space. So I enter Chamila space like this. It will only take up to this space. The other part wouldn't be taken into scanning. Only up to space. So that's another problem of scanning. So the scanf, to avoid that, so there are several ways. Right? Okay. We can use scanf with this, no problem. However, it will only take string up to a white space. So white space means, what are the white spaces? Blank space, or tab, or new line. So we consider them as white space. New line, yeah. We can consider it as white space. So when we characters තිබුණොත් වැඩේ ඉවරයි. Right? For example, Chamila tab right, so whatever, it will only take up to this. Others would be taken. The string we input is, for example, full name. It will only take K. As a solution to that, we could use special format specification instead of this. So instead of using this format specifier, we can use something else. Right? This is a special format specifier that we can use. this would consider tab, space, tab, and new line. Those things would be considered in this case with this format specifier. Right? So let's see. See the name you entered. My full name is there. So whatever all white spaces would be considered. Right. And there's another solution. Right? There's another solution. So instead of using scanf and printf up to now, so we use scanf or printf. For this one, we have a special function for strings, right? Get s function. For this one, we have special function for put s, right? For example, get s. Let's see with the, we can use, instead of this one, we can use get s and directly give the name. This one. And then instead of printf, we can use puts. Just give this one would be printed. See? Get test and put test. Scanf problem will not be there if you use get test. Scanf එක අර තියෙන අර මේ ස්පේස් එකට එනකල් විතරක් ගන්න ප්‍රශ්නේ මෙතනදී නැහැ. Right? This is specially designed for strings. So any questions? Any questions up to now? I'll take another 20 minutes or so. We can conclude today's lecture. So I have two exercises not uploaded on LMSS, but today, like this afternoon, this evening, I will upload them. So those exercises are based on recursion and arrays. Right? So I'll explain them later. So let's. Right. So string manipulation. So what is string manipulation? Manipulation means use as we wish. Right. Like so the television media in Sri Lanka, they manipulate the audience. Right. When there's an election, right, especially like big elections, so the for example channels like the Devana, like Sirasa, like Hero, so those channels are manipulating their viewers, right? Like in news they put some news biased news for their support, the people they are support. The channel value have they support කරනවා කට්ටියට. Serious support කරනවා කට්ටිය. ඒක කට්ටිය manipulate කරනවා. It's not manipulate. මිනිස්සුන්ව අපිට ඕන විදියට නම්මනවා අපිට ඕන දේවල් කරගන්න. අන්න ඒ වගේ අදහසක් තියෙනවා. We do use something as we like stock market manipulation. Yeah, yes. So manipulation is can be seen in many places, right? So for example, like the teaching is a way. So I am doing some manipulation, right? Like not for my or any other person's benefit, but so we are doing that for to make you good IT professionals, right? So the manipulation, it is some good and bad sometimes, right? So most of the things we can see bad manipulation, right? Use as we like, right? So that's the idea. Manipulation, like if you search, you can find action or manipulate is something in a skillful manner. The action of manipulate is something in a clever one. Right, so manipulation, string manipulation, how to handle strings, how to do various things on strings. So like how to use strings in a manner that would be very useful for us. So that's the idea. C supports a wide range of functions that manipulate strings. To use them, string.h standard library should be included at the top of them. So there's a special library. So in this library, string.h. So if you see your set of libraries that you available, there would be a file called string.h, right? Similar to stdio.h, we can have string.h. So we can add string.h. So we have to include that. So in this library, so there are many functions that we can use, right, to manipulate strings, to work with strings, to handle strings. So I'm not going to explain all these functions because we don't have enough time. So these are few functions, very few. There are a lot. For example, strln, we give a string here. It will return the length of the string length, right? So for example, so let's use that. So I'll show you just few. Enter your name. So my name is there. Now my name would be here, right? So let's see string length. So I give string. This would return the length of the string in integers. Right? So let's take it to the length and then let's print it. The length of your name is, right, we give let's see. Okay. My name is okay. Jamila. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? 7 characters are there. Then I gave that, and then length of your name is 46. What is that? Why is that? So let's run it again. So, right here I give my name Chamila. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. Space K. Right. Okay. So let's see how many. It would give 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right. So now the length, string length, this would be given. I told you, like, for example, right. It will put 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So how many characters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then there should be null character because it's a string. There should be null characters. With null character, actually it should be 8. But when this string length would return the length without the null character. Length without null character. null character එක නැතුව තමයි ඒතර ඇත්තටම අපේ තියෙන අපි පාවිච්චි කරන ගාන තමයි දෙන්නේ. Even though we have specified 50 characters, but actual name would be stored as 7, right? Or 9 in the second example. 7. Three ඇත්තට මේ characters කීයක් තියෙනවද කියලා ඒක තමයි දෙන්නේ. Actual number of characters that we have actually stored, that would be written. Okay. Right. So then copy string S2 into string. If we have two strings, we can copy string CPY, string copy. Copy string 2 into string 1. Copy. String cat, concatenate strings, right? So then string compare. CMP means string compare. Compare two strings and give several values. Convert string to lowercase, convert string to uppercase, and so like these are few. Okay. String length. So try to do this and check the answers for the outputs or the results of these. මේවා කරලා බලන්න චුට්ටක් මෙයාගේ මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ output. So then palindrome. So palindrome, I don't think we may have enough time to talk about palindrome. So palindrome is, so there are some words or some strings, some numbers that we can read front to back and back to front the same. So for example, this one, madam, from back to front, madam, same. Race car. So if you read it the other way, race car. Above, the other way. Rotor, right? Malayalam. So here, if you use M, simple M here, Malayalam, it would be the same, Malayalam. This number or this number. And this is, according to Guinness World Record, this word, Finnish, it is a Finland. It's from Finland, Finnish word. So this word would be the longest palindrome in the world. It's the longest palindrome. So if you read it from this way, left to right or right to left, it would be the same. So this word is, the meaning of this word is soapstone vendor. And this is from Greece, I think, like Greece, so Rome, I don't remember. Yeah, Rome. Ancient Rome, so they, if you see this, the words, if you read any of these words, so all of them are palindrome. See? So this one, And then, so you can see the middle here, tenet. And then this one. So that's where the movie Tenet was created. In Tenet, the idea is like we go back in time. So some objects go forward and some just go backwards. So that concept is there in Tenet, right? So the movie, if you have watched that. So that idea is there. The palindrome. Palindrome. ඉස්සරහට ගියත් පිටිපස්සට ගියත් එකම මේ අදහස තමයි කියන එකම විදියට කියුවේ. So that's the idea. Palindrome. So if any number or any string is given, right? Any string is given, if this program is to check whether it is a palindrome. If it is a palindrome, it will say, okay, it is a palindrome. Otherwise, it is not a palindrome. So, for example, it is not a palindrome. So, check this program. Huh? Check this program. And then there's another program, count the total number of words in a string. If a string is given, how many words are there? So this program is to count that. So these sample programs in the next session. So I want to discuss these things and then I'm going to do some practicals on strings. Some practicals on strings. But anyway, so that's the time that we have. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Right? If you have any questions, you can ask now. In the meanwhile, so I'll explain. I'll give a brief introduction to the exercises. Exercise, laboratory exercise 7. It is on recursion, right? So here, what we have to do is greatest common divisor. So if user input two values, two integer values, so you have to find the greatest common divisor, GCD, of these two numbers. So the greatest common divisor means the greatest value that both of these integers can be divided without a remainder. Right? If we take 8 and 12, greatest common 8 and 12. Right? So, for example, take 4, or if we take 2, both can be divided by 2 without remainder. Four, both can be divided without in this case, greatest common divide means 4. So you have to find that using recursion. So then later on, you have to, so here greatest common divisor, 2 or more integers, the largest positive integer that divides each of the integers. GCD of 8 and 12 would be 4. So extend that program. In this case, you may have to create a recursive function for GCD. Right? Then extend that program by adding a function to find least common multiple. Least common multiple or lowest common multiple, or sometimes we call least common divisor, right? So that means the value, the smallest value that both of this, if that value is divided by both of these numbers, both of these integers, so the remainder would be 0. Here, 6යි 10යි කියන දෙකෙන්ම බෙදන්න පුළුවන් පොඩිම ඉලක්ක. So there are like 60, 180, there are many other values, but the smallest value of such. 30 බෙදන්න පුළුවන්, 6නුත් බෙදන්න පුළුවන්, 10නුත් බෙදන්න. Without any remainder, 30 can be divided by 6 as well as 10. So this is the smallest. Least common multiple. Right, so for the second part, B part, you don't have to make it recursive. You don't like LCM calculation is not necessary to be recursive, right? So you can use a regular function for this one, but this one has to be recursive. This one has to be recursive. Right? This is the usually you have to follow the all these rules and naming conventions, and then the next one, lab exercise 8, right? So regular, like I'm not going to explain these things, so you can check these exercises and try this, right? I don't think those are very difficult, but you have to use arrays or multi-dimensional arrays when you are doing this. You have done similar examples. You have done similar exercises, I think, right? So how LCD is 30 for this? Sorry. LCD part answer is 30. It is not 30. LCD answer for 8 and 12, it is 4. Sorry, LCD, right? So LCD, this one. Right. It is 30. So it is 30. LCM or LCD, right? So we have 6 and we have 10, right? So what are the values that we can divide by 6, right? So we have like 12. 6 and 12, 18. Multiples of 6. 24, 30, 36, and so on, right? So the 10 multiples of 10, 10, 20, 30, and 40, and so on. So here, at one point, 60 would be here too, and then 50, 60 would be here. For 10, for 10, this is for 6. So then 30 is the common value for both that we can see first, right? Before, like any values before that are not common. So this is the least common multiple. Okay. Right. So, okay, I'll upload those assignments today, tonight. So you can start working on them. Right. So that's all we can do today. So go through the strings slides, and then I'll let you know when is the next session. So if we can have one session, like maybe 4 hours with a break in the middle, and then we can finish, mainly we can finish the rest of the things that we have to follow. Right, okay, so that's all. Thank you for joining, and have a nice week. So I will let you know the Friday practical won't be conducted as usual this week too. And then instead, so I will let you know a different time for this week, right? Okay. So thank you. See you soon. Stay safe and have a nice week.